All right. I'm not sure why that didn't have sound on it. I'm gonna have to hunt that one down again. Visually, though, it's pretty awesome. Hi, I'm Skip Alsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, where we watch old 16mm films from the AV Geeks collection of over 30,000 films, and we have lots of different topics that we cover. And I have a film set up on the telecine in the back here, which I think it's about heat pumps. So let's watch this film about heat pumps. Enjoy.
This house in Burlington, Ontario, is owned by Bill Loosley, a thermal engineer. When he built it in 1951, he installed a heating system based upon a device known as a heat pump, a refrigerator in reverse.
Everyone who has a domestic refrigerator has a heat pump. Because their system, they take the heat out of the refrigerator box and they put it into the kitchen. But in my case, I have a larger system and I take the heat out of the ground and put it in my house. It's not from hot springs or anything like that because we don't have them in this area. It's just strictly from the heat of the earth, from the sun in the summertime and the warm air going over it. So that I really just take the heat out of the ground. That's my storage spot. And you might say, well, how in the world do you do that? Well, I've got copper tubes buried in the ground. They're about 5.5 feet down and about 6 feet apart. You see they're in lines along through the garden and down through this side. Now in this area the frost goes down about 3 feet, but at the depth I have my tubes, why the temperature is probably 40-45 degrees the year round. Now that you've seen where the ground coil is outside, maybe you'd like to see the rest of the equipment in the basement. So why don't you come in? Now the heat pump's over this way. Now a heat pump consists essentially of a compressor which moves the freon around, and that's this item right here. Now we need a motor to drive it, and this is the electric motor which does that job. Now we will start with liquid freon, which comes in at this point, and it goes through an expansion valve where we have the compressor head pressure on one side and the compressor suction pressure on the other. Now the liquid freon comes up through the expansion valve and out through these tubes into the ground. Now there's a principle of physics that a lot of people learned it at high school, that whenever you have liquid under reduced pressure, it boils. The reduced pressure causes the freon to boil, and boiling requires heat, so it takes the heat out of the copper tubing and out of the ground surrounding it. Now the freon vapor returns and it comes through those 4 tubes down below. Now I must stress that it's vapor, not liquid. Comes back through these copper tubes from the ground coils into the manifold and into the suction side of the compressor. It's just a well-known law of physics that when you raise the pressure on a gas, you increase the temperature. Now it's this higher temperature that makes the heat available for heating my house. So from the discharge of the compressor you have a hot compressed freon, and it goes through this pipe and into the condenser in the other room. Ordinarily the heat pump starts and stops by the thermostat upstairs, but in this case I'll just start it up manually so you can see it running. hot compressed freon comes from the compressor in the heat pump room through this pipe, and it goes into this heat exchanger. Now it's very similar to an automobile radiator. It's an extended surface where you can blow air through it. Now we have a conventional warm air heating fan which takes the air from the house, blows it down through here, up through the heat exchanger where the air is warmed and the warm air is circulated through the warm air ducts into the house. Now in the meantime, the freon in the heat exchanger is cooled down and it condenses to a liquid. And the liquid just drains out the bottom down through this receiver, and then it goes out this pipe back to the heat pump room where it goes through the expansion valve and back out into the ground coils, and it's just a constant circulation of the freon through the system. There's just not really that many things to go wrong because it's a sealed system and the compressor runs and it's all an oil bath, and I can't see where anything's going to really break down. Well, I've kept a record over the years of the number of kilowatt hours, and from that can be derived the cost of operating the heat pump. Now the Hydro was very interested, and they supplied me with a meter which measures the power that's used on the 3 horsepower motor to drive the heat pump. Now it varies slightly over the years, and as everyone knows, the cost of power has gone up. But 4 or 5 years ago, I could heat the house for about $65 for the season, and now it's up to about $75 for the cost of power, which compared to the average heating system is considerably less. With my unit, it operates with a 3 horsepower motor, and for every unit of energy I put into the driving the motor, I get 6 times as much in the way of heat to put in the house, which is one reason why the heat pump is a very satisfactory machine, that it picks up low-grade heat from a heat source such as the ground and makes it available for heating a house. I've been heating my house now for 23 years by taking the heat out of the ground, and it's proved to be a successful system. I suppose you'd be very interested to know what the unit cost. Well, when I built this one, it was about $1,200, which doesn't include a lot of my labor, but the cost now, I think you're thinking of something in the order of $4,000. At one time where the cost of fuel was low, then the cost of building a heat pump seemed to be very high. But when you're paying, say, $400 or $500 to heat a house, then you can certainly take a second look at the cost of the heat pump, which has a low operating cost. There are some requirements you really need for a heat pump, and that's especially when you use the ground for a heat source, you'd have to have sandy soil where you had quite a high water table. My house is on a lot that's 80 by 120 feet. The possibility of me trying to freeze this enormous block of earth around the house solid is very remote because it's really such a small system. Now the temperature that we keep our house is 69 to 70 degrees, and it could be raised up to, say, 75, but the higher the temperature you have in the house, then the efficiency of your heat pump drops off, because there's a relationship between the ground temperature and the temperature of the building you're trying to heat. That you'd have to raise the pressure on the freon gas. That would have to be raised to a higher pressure to give you a higher temperature, and that means that you would burn or use more power in the electric motor. With these methods, greater use could be made of our fossil fuels. We're going to just have to do it because they just aren't going to last forever. And we have to find better ways of developing heat and making the best use out of what fuels are available.
you no expense in bringing you films from the 1970s about efficient heating and cooling technology. So I was reading an article the other day that was actually saying that you could use heat pump technology for air conditioning as well. Just the reverse. That film is fascinating to me because it is, for a National Film Board of Canada film, that's a pretty dry film. Normally they have they jazz it up, and there was some animation in this, but they make it something that's really compelling instead of just having this guy just talk like this. Someone in the comments talked about that he was like Colin Robinson from What We Do in Shadows, who's an energy vampire who thrives on boring people with tedium. Pretty great. Let's watch this an Encyclopedia Britannica film about light, and let's learn how it's done. Enjoy.
It's the first sunny day of the week, and it's fun to get out and ride. Of course, it's always more fun if John and Bill come along. But not today. John has a new camera, and he's been waiting for the sun to come out too. And Bill, well, he's going to have his picture taken. That is, he thought he was. But that's no camera. Fact is, Bill's never seen one of these before. So John explains that this is his father's light meter. This little needle shows how much light there is. His father told him that if the needle pointed between 1 and 200, there would be enough light for a picture using his camera and film. The meter will be very helpful to John. It will show him when there is enough light to take a picture and when there is not enough light to take a picture. Bill had never thought about that before, about light and how different it can be, from the shade all the way to the brightness of the sun itself. There. That ought to be a good shot. But wait a minute. If that light meter shows you when there's enough light to take a picture, let's see if we can take a picture inside. Bill's hobby is tropical fish. He's very proud of them, and he thinks they'd be great for pictures, even better than he was. Say, they are beautiful, aren't they? John likes this idea. He's ready for action. This ought to be easy. But now, wait a minute. John has a problem. There's less light in the room than he thought. Nope. It looked bright enough, but the meter shows there's not enough light for his camera. Well, maybe they can find some things that'll help to give more light. How about some candles? People used to use candles for light before electric lamps were invented. Fact is, when the power fails, candles are still used once in a while. So let's measure the candle light. No, the candle just doesn't give enough light. This lamp is much brighter. But look, light won't pass through the metal shade. We call such material opaque. Hey, there's one that's better. Some of the light comes through that shade. That material is translucent, but there's still not enough light. Well, there's a chandelier, and it's transparent. It lets all the light come through. But that won't work, says John. The light is too far away from the fish. Here's another lamp, and if you turn it up like this, it's pretty bright. Well, let's see what the meter shows. Not bright enough. But as the lamp is moved closer, It seems much brighter to John, and the meter shows that it is. So the next thing to do is move the light in close to the subject. John now has enough light to take a good picture. But where's Bill? Bill's going to make sure they have plenty of light. Here's another lamp they can use. Just plug it in, turn it on. Now for that picture. But John seems to have another problem. The new light will show right in the middle of the picture. Instead of all the light passing through the glass, some of the light is bouncing back to their eyes. It's being reflected. But the boys soon find out that if they move the lamp, the reflection moves. So if they raise the lamp, they're able to raise the reflected image of the bulb up out of the picture. Now John can take his snapshot. There, that does it. John is satisfied. But not Bill. Bill's not thinking about pictures anymore. He's trying to figure out what happened when they had trouble with the reflection. Bill's curiosity helps him to learn. He finds that he can block off the reflection. He also notices that this happens only along a line from the lamp to the glass and along a line from the glass to his eye. Bill is finding out that light travels in straight lines. Move the source, and the reflection moves as well. Now let's see, what else can we learn about reflection? Do other things reflect light in the same way? A mirror gives a very good reflection, doesn't it? Let's see how good. Bill finds that by shining a flashlight in the mirror, he can get a very good reflection, even on the other side of the room. And the light still travels in straight lines. So the mirror is a good reflector because of its smooth, shiny surface. Smooth, polished metal like this picture makes a good reflector too. But because of its curved surface, it does funny things to Bill's face, doesn't it? What about the top of this table? How does it compare with the picture and the mirror? Not so good, is it? And yet it does reflect some light. Without the reflection of light, we would not see the things around us. Here's an experiment to help show that this is true. How much of John's face we see depends on how much light falls on it. This light is reflected back to our eyes. We see the fish in the tank because they reflect light too. But now, looking down into the tank, John sees something unusual. The thermometer looks as if it's broken. No, it isn't broken, is it? It just looks that way. Do you suppose light has something to do with this? Yes, it certainly does. And with the help of Bill's flashlight, perhaps we can understand why. In a darkened room, we can see how light bends as it goes through the surface of the water. We call this bending refraction. Now do you see why the thermometer appears to be broken? The light that is reflected from the part under the water bends as it comes out of the tank. Refraction can be very useful to us. The magnifying glass bends light to make what we see look larger. The light that enters a telescope bends to make faraway things seem nearer. Some lenses bend light to sharpen sight for eyes that need help. Other lenses help us take pictures. But of all lenses, the most important to us are the lenses in our eyes. We've used them to discover many things about light. That the sun is our greatest natural source of light. It is far brighter than the artificial light we use inside our homes. We have also discovered that the closer we are to a source of light, the brighter it is. Some materials are transparent, allowing all the light to go through. Others are translucent, allowing part of the light to go through. Still others are opaque, allowing none of the light to go through. Sometimes light can cause problems of reflection, as it did for John. But reflection is of the greatest importance. We see almost everything by reflected light. Without it here, we would see only this. We have also seen how light bends as it passes through certain materials. The lens of a camera causes the light to bend onto the film. And speaking of film, how about those pictures? Say they're good pictures. And they'll help the boys remember what they learned about reflection and refraction, especially the one Bill's looking at now. Bill thinks this one deserves a title. This is Bill, beginning to see the light.
All right, so the Encyclopedia Britannica, that was like 63, so we start seeing the transition into how they talk about light. You know, we don't have that voice of God narrator who's just kind of showing general information about light with animations and all that. We actually meet characters who are in the film. And I think that was a change in the approach and how school films, they were like, we got to give kids something to latch onto and maybe identify with. The fact that, oh, well, here's a peer, someone who's close to my age, who is exploring, and I'm exploring through their eyes, versus just this kind of weird narration. That's my kind of approach, my take on this. It's anecdotal. I don't know if it's really true or not, but Tree Bank is a fascinating film about the value of trees, not from necessarily a natural standpoint, but from a natural resources standpoint. Enjoy.
In recent years, much progress has been made in planting trees. Today, throughout America, there are successful forest plantations on more than 5 million acres. Many of these plantations are on well-kept farms across the country, where progressive farmers are using trees to increase the value of their land. We'd like you to meet one of these farmers, Roy Nelson and his son Don. Exhibit A in a case we are about to present on the many values of growing trees on the farm. The Nelsons find slack season work in their well-managed plantation of trees and extra dollars to add to the regular farm income. And that's not all. With trees to protect the soil, there's less chance of erosion and usually good clean water in steady supply. Where the trees grow, adjacent to fields and pastures, you'll find wildlife too, because there will be food and cover for them. Where the trees grow, you'll have scenic beauty and opportunity for outdoor fun. Yes, sir, the Nelsons are getting full value from the trees they planted. Of course, Roy Nelson is not the only American farmer who has had the foresight and initiative to plant trees. Other farmers and landowners who have put trees in the ground are sharing in the many dividends that growing timber yields. Over and above the benefits of soil protection, wildlife, and beauty, they too have learned that there's money in the trees they have planted. They find there's a good market for small timber in pulpwood. There's also a market for posts and poles. They get these short-term products as intermediate crops by thinning the thickly growing young stand of trees. Opening up the plantation and letting the daylight in helps the trees that are left to grow faster for future crops. In the South, there's a market for tree gum. Turpentining gives additional income, an extra payday from trees that will be cut later to thin and improve the stand. Farmers who got into tree planting early are cashing in, not only on intermediate crops, but from the sale of logs for lumber. For some farmers, the greatest value they get from the trees they plant is in the form of shelter belts, trees to shield their crops from the drying wind, trees to make their farm life more pleasant and enjoyable. Now we leave it up to you. Isn't this plantation of trees pretty? And can't you almost see the dollar signs hanging on the branches? Under the Soil Bank Act, there's a wonderful opportunity right now to plant trees. Farmers in particular can get into the nationwide tree planting program at a considerable savings in cost, and in a short time, start to reap the earnings from their tree bank. There's a lot of land that's eligible for planting as part of the Conservation Reserve. Land that, up to now, has regularly been used for crop production, including tame hay. Of course, cropland that is eroding or otherwise run down is ideally suited for planting trees. Trees could help hold down the soil and hold back the water. Many people are wondering if there will be enough trees to plant the land that is eligible under the soil bank. Well, in public and commercial nurseries across the nation, millions of seedlings are growing right now, and room is being made for more. You see, it doesn't take much space, really, to grow the little fellows. In just one of these beds, there are more than 30,000 seedlings. Enough trees to plant 30 to 60 acres, depending on how far apart the trees are planted. Up to now, the smallest state nursery has been producing 1 million tree seedlings a year. The largest nursery up to 35 million. Right now, however, in forest nurseries all over the country, both state and commercial, the theme is expansion, with work going on at an accelerated pace to grow the planting stock needed for the soil bank job. It takes real care and know-how to operate a successful nursery. The seed beds must be carefully prepared. The beds are leveled off and packed firmly. The seeds are sown by hand or by machine. Just the right amount goes into each bed. Then they are covered with sand or a mixture of sand and sawdust to help them germinate. Protection is afforded by mulching and by shading. Weeding is a necessary operation in every nursery. Tree seedlings need plenty of water for proper growth. Depending on the kind of trees and where they are grown, It takes from 1 to 3 years before they are big and strong enough to leave the nursery. A special device is used to lift the young trees from the ground. Then they are lifted out by hand, and the loose soil is shaken off. Careful handling is essential at all stages, right through packing and bundling. These seedlings will go to farmers participating in the soil bank program. The truck has 80,000 pine seedlings aboard, enough to plant 100 acres or more. Like other farm jobs, planting trees is no snap, especially if you have to do it by hand. And that's the way it often has to be done, particularly on small areas. Of course, when you get your neighbors to join in a planting bee, the job goes faster. If the trees are to live, their roots must be kept moist right up to planting time. And the seedlings must be planted right. Again, careful handling, roots straight down, correct depth, and solid packing. Sometimes small machinery at hand can be adapted for planting trees. Just the right spacing, and you can plant a lot of trees in a short time. On larger fields where the going is good, a tree planting machine really puts the trees in the ground. This one will plant up to 1,000 or more trees an hour. After the trees are planted, they still need some care, just as any valuable crop does. You've got to keep livestock out and fire too. A plowed or disked strip makes a good fire break. Sometimes, just like a cornfield, a young plantation needs weeding. Cutting out the undesirable brush and low-value trees will give the planted trees more living room. Almost from the start, a plantation of trees adds to the value of a farm. Of course, in some places, trees grow faster than in others. It depends on what kind of trees they are and on the growing conditions. But whatever their age or size, tree plantations start yielding early returns in soil and water conservation, in shelter for wildlife, and in creating a more pleasant environment for those who actually work and live on the land. Sooner or later, the plantation starts paying off in dollars and cents, too. And that gets us back to Exhibit A, the Nelsons. Through the years since Roy first planted these trees, the Nelsons have taken pride in their plantation. They have nursed it, protected it, worked in it, and are now reaping a well-earned harvest, with more to come. The Nelsons are living proof that planting trees and taking care of them does pay off. Pays off in many ways, including hard cash. Well, that's our case on the value of planting trees. There's no doubt about it. You can bank on trees, because trees are like money in the bank. If you are eligible under the Soil Bank Act, if you have land that might well be taken out of crop production and put into trees, see your county agent or local ASC committeeman for information. When you're ready to plant, your state forester can furnish technical assistance. The young trees you plant today will quickly grow in value and become your tree bank of tomorrow.
Glorious. Your tree bank of tomorrow. I'm reminded of the Kenmore film Freeze-In, which talks about the time bank, that a freezer is actually a time bank. When you're making homemade pizzas for your family, you make a couple more and you put them in the freezer so that you can save time later by just defrosting it. And it's an excellent concept, horribly executed with Freeze-In. But this is, a fascinating USDA film trying to encourage farmers to, like, your fields are spent. Maybe you can plant some trees and make some money. All right. I have another film set up on the Telecine. Telecine, of course, is a film transfer machine that allows us to transfer flicker-free from 24 frames a second to 30 frames a second and watch stuff that we haven't transferred. I show stuff that's already been digitized, but I'm adding more stuff that I haven't seen or we haven't digitized. And so this is Let's Go Out Together. And I looked at the title, I was like, is it like a dating film? Like, what is this? So let's watch and figure it out together. Enjoy.
Let little children look to the richness of living that is their city. Let them reach out from the strength and beauty of the culture to which each has been heir. Help them make the city their own by their joy in each other and in discovery as they move out and then come back to a classroom to build. They will learn to mold the city with energy and caring, for here among people is the frontier land of their times.
Let's all go out together from the rain or sunny weather. Let's all go out together. Let's all go out together, got to know each other better. Let's all go out together. Let's all go out, let's all go out, let's all go out together.
Who knows where we're going today? Fire station. We're going to the fire station, right. Jimmy wants to be a fireman when he grows up. Does anybody else? Me too. And look, who wants to tell us about this picture? Me. Okay. Tisha, what do you think? A truck. And what's this stuff all wound up on the back of that truck? What? The hose. The hose. Where are we going today, everybody? To the fireman.
This here's the helmet. You can all try it on if you want to see what it's like. You can try it on. This is the coat. You can feel how heavy that the coat is. This is what they call a Nomax coat. It helps to protect us from the heat and the flame. But of course we can't walk through fire. We still have to use our water lines to put the fire out. Here's our boots. These boots, when we put them on, as you see, it has an extension. That'll pull all the way up. It's probably bigger than some of you that are here.
Give me the helmet, Dad. Give me the helmet. You can't fight the fire without a helmet on.
Okay, you got it on?
Okay, let's pretend there's a fire. There
because we have to ventilate the buildings in order to let all this smoke and heat and gas escape. Now also, if you had fire in the floor or in a wall, excuse me a minute.
Tallest building in Philadelphia. Be sure to look up at Billy Penn on top when you go out on the platform here. Statue's been standing up here 80 years on top. It's 37 feet high and 53,000 pounds. That's more than you weigh.
I know.
Look up top.
He's big. My grandmother's house. My grandmother's house.
Your grandmother lived here.
In Scranton. It looked like a giant toy that was electric, and it could go by itself. All you had to do was watch it.
Sweet potato, very all alive. The lobsters and the crabs were all alive. People have to cook them. It's a baby octopus. See that? We touch them? Well, surely. Yes, you can put your finger on. See how it feels.
6 pound, right? Yeah, I'll give you half a pound extra good weight. Okay?
Thank you.
Who's going to pay now? Who's got all the money? Who's going to pay for the apple? All right, thank you. You want any change?
Do you remember how many cupfuls we need?
Yeah, 4 cups.
We need 3 cups full of apples.
Can I taste this?
Yes, you may taste that. Push again.
4 spoons, 5 spoons, 7 spoons.
Do you think that's a cupful?
Yeah.
All right, shall we pour it in here? 1 cupful. What is that? The crusts for the pie.
There wasn't a old lady who lived in the ship. Who had so many children, she didn't know what to do.
tickets for 5 adults and 8 children, please, to Allegheny Station?
$4.50. Thank you.
Throw it right at him. Here you go. Here. Throw it in there. I got a little... Hey, big one. Big one. Big one in there. Big one.
This is a very, very big river. It's called Delaware River. Look how far away the water goes, way out here.
I could see it.
You can see, look. Now we're going to take a walk up to where the ships are. I got a big one, look. The water coming out of the sky. See the big anchor on the side there?
See, children, this is how many of our supplies come into the city.
And even the whole group could lift this up. Look how thick, yeah. Heavy, very heavy. Oh, going up in the air, he's going to pick a big piece of steel up. Look at how big it is. It's very, very heavy. Very heavy. Look, he's bringing it down now.
Wow, we are loaded with bricks, certainly. But they're making different ways. Right, by turning it in different directions. You see that?
Life is all one in each day. The laughter at work, the struggle of play, the mud in our shoes, the wind in our hair, the smell of the cut grass, the joy in the air. Let's all go out together, come the rain or sunny weather. Let's all go out together. Let's all go out together, got to know each other better. Let's all go out together. Let's all go out together. The doors to pull open, the stairways to climb. I'll hold your hand if you hold mine. Learning to know ourselves and each other, exploring and growing with one another. Let's all go out together, come the rain or sunny weather. Let's all go out together. Let's all go out together, got to know each other better. Let's all go out together. Let's all go out, let's all go out, let's all go out together.
All right. That was great. It had a song. I don't know. Was it good enough for the toe tapping tournament? Should I make that note in my database? I don't know. Not as exciting as a Jim Burrows song, maybe. But thanks everybody for tuning in today. If you like what you saw, you can hit like and subscribe. In fact, it'd be great if you did that today. Just hit that button and or that thumbs up or whatever, just to say like, hey, this is interesting. Internet monsters. Let's keep them alive. Also, you can go to avgeeks.com and see other films that we have put online over the last many years, 10 years or longer. And finally, you can buy us coffee by going to buymeacoffee.com/avgeeks. And yeah. So we'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Everybody have a great rest of your day. And we'll watch some 16mm films together tomorrow. All right, take care.